It's a bear. Good morning. Hey, what's up? This is Brian Kuzmar with Commercial Rare Coins and Precious Metals in beautiful Lauderdale by the Sea. Got the live Save the Manatee cam up. I think this is in one of the Blue Springs up in northern Florida. Don't have a local cam up. I figured I'd switch it up a little bit. And I got a sneaking suspicion this is also pre-recorded. It sure looks that way. Oh yeah, not live, not live. Anyway, sorry about that. I usually like to show a live picture here in the morning. And here, let's see what the live picture looks like. Oh, there you go. Not much different, just a something in the way. So, hey, let's take a look at what's going on today. Wow, talk is cheap because supply exceeds demand. I like this little quote today, and you know, it's funny too because I talk a lot. So, I guess I'm saying my talk is cheap, but it really is. Talk is cheap because supply exceeds demand, and it leads into my topic for today, which is exactly that, which is supply and demand. Some things that don't make any sense to me whatsoever based on the current market conditions we're seeing in gold and silver and the supply and demand issues we're seeing in gold and silver. These things just do not jive with each other at all. There's such inconsistency going on right now with basic investing 101, which is understanding the law of supply and demand. This is Investopedia, one of my favorite websites when it comes to looking up terms I'm not familiar with or terms that I need to refresh myself on. I don't think myself nor anyone out there really needs to learn what supply and demand means. It's, again, basic economic 101. The supply of demand, I'm going to read it here from Investopedia. The law of supply and demand, one of the most basic economic laws, ties into almost all economic principles somehow. In practice, people's willingness to supply and demand a good determines the market equilibrium price, or the price where the quantity of the goods that people are willing to supply equals the quantity that people demand. All right, a little not oversimplification of it, but making it a little more complicated. Key takeaways: the law of demand says that at higher prices, buyers will demand less of an economic good. The law of supply says that at higher prices, sellers will supply more of an economic good. These two laws interact to determine the actual market prices and volume of goods that are traded on the market. And again, this is on Investopedia. It's basic 101 stuff. The law of supply and demand is a theory that explains the interaction between the sellers of a resource and the buyers for that resource. The theory defines the relationship between the price of a given good or product and the willingness of people to either buy or sell it. Generally, as prices increases, people are willing to supply more and demand less, vice versa. So, I mean, again, that's probably an overcomplicating the definition there. The supply and demand basically means when you have a large supply of something and very little demand, the prices are typically cheap. It doesn't cost much. I mean, go out and take a look at what dirt is. There's a lot of dirt out there. There's so much dirt out there on the ground that the supply exceeds the demand. I mean, we use dirt. We use it for farming and stuff like that. But well, I shouldn't talk about fertilizers and things. But supply and demand basically means, and again, say for example, there's only like 5 of a particular coin out there, or 5 examples of a coin out there, and there's only 5 examples of a particular car out there. I'm trying to use different collectibles as an example of supply and demand as well. So you get 5 of these items out there, and you get 7 people struggling to buy them. They're actually, when you get over that 5 level, it becomes competition. People start to compete for the limited supply. So the prices go up, all right? So again, if you got 7 or 8 people competing to beat 5, to buy 5 cars, there are only 5 on the market in the whole world, or coins, or whatever it may be. Let's call it widgets. There's only 5 widgets left in the world, and you get 7 people trying to buy them. That's going to cause prices to go up. You get 8 people trying to buy them, prices are even going to go up further, okay? And that's where the supply is less than the demand, okay? And that causes prices to go up. It's the other way around. Like I said earlier, if you got so much supply and no demand, say you got 5 of these widgets, but you only got 1 person that wants that widget. Well, basically, that's virtually no demand at all, and the prices would be really cheap on that. So what's happening with the gold and silver markets out there? Well, I'll show you what's happening. Huge demand for gold and silver globally, not just in the U.S., globally, all right? huge demand for gold and silver globally. And I would say other precious metals as well. But yet, take a look at these prices right here. Now, doesn't this fly in the face of any kind of reason or any kind of basic economic 101 you learn? Absolutely it does. And how is this explainable? This is explainable, these low prices, given that we have a super large demand, I'm saying super, super huge, super large, extreme demand for gold, silver, and platinum products. But let's just talk about gold and silver for now. Huge demand, limited supply, and in some cases very little supply, as is in the case of silver in smaller units. Yet we have declining prices, and I'm not just talking about minor declining prices. I'm talking about over $100, hang on one second, let me see, $160 down on the price of gold since the high last week. And as I mentioned in my videos, I understood that part of that up price in gold we were going to see get taken back some when peace announcements were made, all right? And we haven't seen that. We haven't seen that. And I earnestly believe that the big commercial banks, just like that the big commercial banks that have been shorting gold and silver, and particularly silver in the CME markets, are in trouble, okay? They were expecting some kind of news to be able to monkey hammer the markets down based on some news. That way it didn't look like it was just pure manipulation, but they weren't given that news. The peace talks have been real scattered, and basically what we've seen is just pure unadulterated manipulation in the CME COMEX markets, the LMB markets, LBMA markets, and obviously what we've seen happen, and I wouldn't have expected, and I thought it would happen with silver, but it happened with nickel in this last week in the LME markets, where we learned how fraudulent these commercial, not these commercial, but how fraudulent these trading platforms and these companies, you know, the CME group and the LME, how fraudulent they are, okay? Basically, and we'll get into that in a moment. So, you know, this flies in the face of any basic economic reasoning. Basic shit, man, I'm telling you. There's no reason for the price of gold and silver to be down. Platinum, I don't believe as well. No reason whatsoever. And the only explainable cause for this is pure, simple manipulation in the COMEX CME markets, the LBMA markets, and obviously, as we've seen in nickel, LME markets. We're going to get in that in a moment. Let's look at the, let me do a quick refresh because it just recently got monkey hammered down again in the COMEX, NYMEX markets, the crooked NYMEX fuckers, I'm telling you. Look at this, 1911.34 currently. We were sitting at a high of 1927 last night and a low of 1905. And we're going to get into the 24-hour charts because I want to show you where these markets are where the crooks are operating in the gold and silver markets right now and what time they're doing it, okay? So a low of 1905, a high of 1927. It looks like they want to test that sub $1,900 level. You know, and if you think about it, besides the big commercial short positions in the crooked COMEX market, we also got Bank of America, who may have, according to Ted Butler, has that 800 million ounce short position that's owed to JP Morgan, and it also has, you know, they also, what, 30 million ounces of gold or something like that, I believe, okay? And if that is correct, I'm sure they're out there monkey hammering markets downward too, because they're at huge losses, and at some point, I've talked about metals as being like a greyhound on a leash. When that leash comes off, that dog's going to run. And that's what we're kind of seeing right now. And I think this is fear. They're not even afraid of monkey hammering these markets downward because they're in pure fear mode right now because they're in such bad positions if gold and silver continue to climb up. You think the nickel market was bad. Wait and see if these shorts get caught in the gold and silver markets. And as I said, we're going to read something about that from a New York Fed person. A past New York Fed person talks about just what I'm saying right now, or just about. Give me 1 second. We'll get there. Let's take a look at spot prices too. I mean, look at silver, 24.52, 25.01. So they took it below that 25 mark, and they're knocking it down below 24. But still, folks, I don't think it's going to stay there long. I don't think it's going to stay there for long. I believe that they're getting so desperate that they're not even hiding this manipulation. They're not even remotely hiding it anymore. They are just blindly going on. And part of the reason with that is, again, lack of any federal oversight or regulation. And I know some people are going to say the CFTC should be regulating, but I'm telling you, the CFTC is either stupid, I'm going to say it outright, stupid, or completely or involved with it, one or the other, or both maybe, stupid and involved, okay? They've allowed it, and the Congressional Oversight Committee, I think is the Agricultural Committee that oversees the CFTC and the Comics Exchange. You want to see incompetence, just look at who's in the Agricultural Committee, all right? And then you understand why there is no governance and no regulation in the CFTC on these crooked COMEX markets. But let's take a look. 2501, 2452 currently sitting in, and platinum did jump up above that $1,000 range in the green, as is palladium. I think that gold and silver are in oversold territory right now. Oversold, what am I saying? That's an understatement to the nth degree. But I do see they're going to be bouncing back here at some point. I'm not quite sure what the low is going to be. Let me just do a quick ticker here, a quick update. This is a static page. Yeah, maybe we'll bounce off that. Well, we hit that 905. Let's see what happens. However, folks, you can just tell it's clear, blatant manipulation going on. Another thing I've noticed, look at the spot prices here. I just updated that, 1915, 47, 2473. Both are very, CCE runs some good spots and everything like that, but the spots are just screwy out there as well. This is Fizz Trade. It's a dealer site. Again, it's again, dealers only. It's for hedging, people that are doing hedging and stuff like that. And take a look at this right here. Gold, 1904. Look what they're showing for spot prices, 24.55. Their spot prices are considerably lower. Spot prices are all effed up out there, folks. I'm telling you, they're all effed up. Nobody's spot prices are jiving with each other. And take, again, CCE, who's always been relatively very consistent and right, 1917, 24.77. We're going to go over to Fizz Trade, which I said is a hedging site primarily. And let's see, I'll refresh that real quick. Yeah, still 1907, 24. That's considerably lower. 1916 on the ask, I'm sorry, in 24.75. All right, that's getting closer to what we're looking right here. So that's pretty consistent. Let's take a look at Kitco right now. So CCE and Fizz Trade seem to be fairly consistent as far as the ask prices go. Kitco seems to be fairly consistent there. Well, 1916 and 24.72. So yeah, 24.80, a little consistency. It looks like we're getting a little bounce here at the end of the day. But when I go to sites like this, when I go to look at JM and the other sites, look at the prices they're showing. That's about $10 higher than even the ask price on the other two sites that I'm looking at, 24.97. So I'm really surprised at the how much higher the prices are on JM and SD. And well, I didn't look at SD, so I can't say that today. But generally, the online sellers, their spot prices are considerably higher than what I've been seeing. Not explainable by me. Really, I suspect they should be using the ask prices on some of this stuff. Again, the ask prices here on Fizz Trade, even the ask prices on Kitco seem to be fairly reasonable. But like I said, they seem to be a lot higher. Let me take a quick sip of coffee here real quick, one sec. Sorry about that. So let's take a look at the overnight charts. I just did a refresh. I'm going to pull that up. I like Kitco because they do have these charts that show the last 3 days. And you can see where the manipulative behavior is happening here in the evening markets in Globex, probably London as well when it comes to gold. But Globex markets right here, take a look at this. Just a steady, slowward trend downward in New York NYMEX markets. I mean, just across the board, concentrated hammering. This is Monday. That was yesterday, Tuesday. And we're kind of flat-lined out today a little bit, even though you see that dip happening here. And let me just do a refresh on that one as well, make sure we are in the right screen here. And there you go. There's that dip right there that we just saw this morning to 1905, and then kind of moving back upward. But you see there's sideways tracking motion in that 19 range. But again, it's just kind of sad that what we should be seeing is we should be seeing this green line, that red line, that blue line, and the lines from the past day making continuous slow climbs upward based on supply and demand issues and based on what markets probably really should be, not what the bullshit paper markets are showing you right now. These are not real numbers, in my opinion, folks, when you really come down to it. I suspect that the prices, well, really should be much higher than this. And then realistically, when you look at the ask prices and the bid prices, or ask prices and selling prices on physical, you'll see that the price is too low, lower than it should be. Again, a lot of weird shit going on out there. Let me move into something else, because again, at some point when we talk about this stuff, it just becomes a broken record over time. We know what's happening. It's just pointing it out and spreading the word out there that it is, and recognizing how, who, and when. That's what we're supposed to do. And you know, if you're going to win this market, if you're going to need to know who the players are, and you're going to need to know how they manipulate this game. And I'm going to do a quick refresh here. No need to. Looks like I'm going to go to the U.S. markets. Looks like we're in the green. Dow, S&P, NASDAQ. I think the Fed's going to come out and jawbone some shit today. Who knows? Maybe that's why gold and silver went down a little bit, because there was some news to justify the crooks monkey hammering it downward. But who knows? And that's what they do too. They wait for news to lower that hammer. Alrighty here. God, I keep talking about the hammer. The hammer, the hammer. Become obsessive with the monkey hammer. And let's see where else we're going here. Oddly enough, guess what is following, as I've been saying for quite some time, guess what's following the equities market? The crypto markets. Take a look at this. Crypto's up, equity markets are up. Man, as I said, isn't it weird? Can anyone explain why crypto markets are following equities when the Dow and the NASDAQ and stuff start going up, Bitcoin starts going up, and the same thing, when it starts going down, it goes down. I thought the whole idea behind Bitcoin was when the stocks went down and the dollar became worth less and less, and bad times, the Bitcoin price was skyrocketing and soar. Well, we haven't seen that, folks. And will it even happen? I don't know. I think it's just a glorified money market account right now. JM Bullion, we were looking at the prices here, and I was mentioning that the spot prices on a lot of the online sellers is significantly different than what I'm seeing in some of the spot prices that we're looking at. Well, let's take a look at product, because listen, this is the tell right here. Look at what, I mean, spot price is $24.93. And in small quantities, I'll just use a small quantity number. You can buy silver at $30.82 per ounce. So let me just do that on Siri real quick here. Give me 1 second here. 30.82 subtract 24.93. Whoa, $5.89 premium on wow, on generic. That is just crazy. $5.89 on small quantities. Almost a $6 premium on 1 ounce silver bars from JM Bullion. And as you know, I advertise here to beat JM Bullion, SD, and APMEX on popular products. The only problem is I am pretty much almost slim to none on 1 ounce products right now. I believe maybe I can take orders here. I'll let you know. But look. And here's the interesting part of this, is out of all the online companies, SD, APMEX, JM is really the 800-pound gorilla. They're owned by A-Mark, which is a publicly traded company. And A-Mark, it also owns silver manufacturers. Like, I don't know, they might own Sunshine. I think they might own Sunshine, but I know they own Silvertown. So as far as Silvertown goes, I mean, they own the mint. The only reason they probably got any product, look, availability, is because they own those mints, folks. And they're able to, they're such a huge company, they're able to source. So I'm really surprised, but they do have product in stock, but it's like almost $6 over. And this is from a company that owns minters, owns the distribution process. This is a company that has direct buying from the U.S. Mint for Eagles, okay? And look at their premiums. Their premiums are even crazy. And they have the ability to basically beat anybody out there if they wanted to. But again, remember, they do have big overhead, but they could beat anybody out there in price, and they're almost $6 over, folks. The premiums are just insane right now. And how does that make any sense in supply and demand? Why is it so hard to get? Why is it so expensive? If there's and prices are coming down on the price of silver, I'm telling you, there's only one reason for that. I'm not going to say it. Let's take a look at this real quick. Good article. Soviet Metals Exchange LME irks traders. I thought this would happen in the silver market before the nickel market, but no less. The nickel market had what we kind of expected, or what we've been expecting to happen in the silver market. Maybe the reason that it's not happening in the silver market is because the COMEX, CME, and people that trade in that stuff, and the crooks at JP Morgan know that if that market goes down, they're screwed. They're all screwed. So maybe they're just trying to save these big silver short positions by driving the price down. Again, desperation levels. The manipulation has never been this blatant in my lifetime. Let's read this real quick. 1 second. And this is submitted by, okay, I don't know. I don't know who said this comment up here, but are idiot COMEX gold and silver future traders paying attention to this LME situation? No. Oh, I put in a call to LME, to the CME, by the way. I talked to a nice guy down there, same guy I talked to before. I don't think he wrote anything down. I don't think he cared about anything I said about. Nice guy, was taking his kids to day school at the time. I guess they're working from home. But I swear I don't think he cared about anything I said. He'd be, yeah, have a nice day. So, but nice guy. No less, I asked him if he was familiar with, and this is one of the people that work in regulation down in CME group. They're part of the, if someone calls and complains, they're supposed to know. They had no clue about what happened on the nickel market at the LME. They had no clue about this. But here we go. LME irks traders by freezing nickel market, reversing $4 billion in trades. This is direct proof how crooked these commodity markets are run by COMEX and the LME. Ready? The London Metal Exchange has enraged some of the world's most influential electronic traders after it shut down its nickel market and unwound thousands of deals in response to a spike in the price of nickel. Sound familiar, folks? Months, or sound like it should be familiar? Months after the 145-year-old exchange upset its traditional use by considering an end to the raucous in-person dealing, the LME this week shut down its nickel trading, a market where it sets global benchmarks in a move last seen in 1985. The crisis came after the metal's value more than doubled in 2 days to a record price above $100,000 a ton, as a large bet against the nickel price left tycoon behind Tsingshan Holding Group, China's leading stainless steel group, facing billions in potential losses. Okay, which was their fault. That was this trading group's fault. They took this short position, all right, but no less, and they were going to lose billions on it, and rightfully so. They took the position. They're big people. They're big boys. But let's see what happened here. But the exchange also canceled all 5,000 nickel trades that had been executed on Tuesday, worth nearly $4 billion. Mark Thompson, vice chair of Tungsten West and a long-standing trader on the LME, estimated the exchange had wiped out $1.3 billion of profit and loss on the deals. It was in the interest of the market as a whole, the LME said. The LME, no, it was not. It was the interest of their big whales, just like COMEX protects the big whales in the COMEX silver markets. All right, let me go on here. Some market participants say that in effectively scrubbing the day from the record books, the exchange crossed a line. Yes, they did. We found out that the casino is crooked and only works for those big whales. Not only did the LME fail to manage the risk, but it also, sound familiar in the COMEX silver market, but it also picked a side when it should be neutral. Neutral, my ass. AQR, one of the largest hedge funds in the world, is exploring legal options in the dispute with the LME after losing out on significant profits from the exchange decision. Ooh, that ought to be interesting, according to people familiar with the matter. Go AQR. I hope you guys win and stick it right up their asses and bankrupt them fuckers. They deserve it, in my opinion. In a series, but here we go, too big to fail, too big to jail, and not too big to bail. But no less, let's move along here. In a series of posts on Twitter, Clifford Asness, founder of the $140 billion fund, described the LME as slime balls. Great to you, Clifford. I agree. They are slime balls. So is the COMEX CME group. This was, he said, the first time he had been told you don't get your legitimate profits because, gee, someone else, a broker who didn't manage things so well, might suffer. Well, it wasn't just a broker, sir. It was one of their big whales that they protect and they make sure they win all the time. All right? Anyways, I'm accusing you, the LME, of reversing trades to save your favored cronies and robbing your non-crony customers. There you go. And folks, this is exactly what has been happening in the COMEX silver markets. This exactly, except the LME wasn't able to contain it, and the truth is out. I hope they get their asses sued. I hope they take them down. And this is the same hopes that I have for the COMEX and CME markets, that we take them down like this as well. Once they just blatantly do something like this, they need to be sued, all right? I'm really surprised that Sprott and other people don't go out there and sue the frick out of CME or COMEX Group. Get Ted Butler to help you out. He'd be a great expert witness that would probably put the case in their favor. All right, I digress. There's your first digress of the day. The LME denied the parent company Hong Kong Exchange Clearing had influence on its decision. The LME is a fucking joke. So is the COMEX and CME, in my opinion, as well. And remember, folks, everything I'm saying here is my opinion. However, it's not just my opinion. It is the opinion of people way smarter than me that know these markets way better than I. And why do we continue to say it's opinion? Well, we'll give them the benefit of the 0.0001% benefit of the doubt, okay? All right, let's move along here. And a really good article on gata.org. I'm going to go to the home page because there's a few good articles. You should have this on your bookmark bar. Russian central bank leaves banking system gold for household demand. I thought this was wonderful. I mean, go figure. Basically, Russia knows that its people are going to be suffering because of sanctions and all that stuff. We're not going to get into all that right now because we know, we know the deal. And so basically, Russia has come out and said, okay, folks, since we know the ruble is going to drop in value, already has dropped in value significantly, and so will other Russian assets, paper assets, we want you to go into the physical world and buy gold and silver. The Russian government took away VAT taxes completely, which ate up about 20% of the gold's profit, and they're encouraging their people to trade in their rubles for gold. Would our government ever do that, encourage us to trade dollars in for gold, even in a wartime? Probably not, because them greedy bastards want to bleed all over us dry, folks, and they're going to do it through the paper system, and soon through the crypto system. That's how they're going to rob us next, turning us into a cashless society. They're going to try that their hardest, but I tell you, you better go dragging, kicking, and screaming, okay? All right, good article on gata.org. Craig Hemke, got here, ready? Good job, Craig. Explains what is going on up there as well on manipulation in COMEX, how the manipulation in COMEX is occurring as well. It's different than what Ted Butler talks about with the big four commercial positions. I believe he is talking about, give me 1 second, see if I can find it down here. There we go. We're going to click that and go there. And we'll go to the Sprott Money page. By the way, Sprott Money, man, I wish you guys would get together a lobby. I'd kick in some money. I'm sure you could get enough money. We'll get a lobbyist, not a lobbyist, but hire an attorney, maybe a class action lawsuit against COMEX or CME. Again, Sprott Money, I'd be in on doing that. We should get some kind of lobby for all of us that does that kind of stuff. All right, let's take a look here. Sprott talks about back in November, we noticed a new trick being employed to manage and manipulate COMEX gold price and into month-end expirations. Here's an update and explanation why. It gets a little technical here, folks. It talks about price smashing in the month ahead of an option expiration and contract rolls. Some of you guys understand that really well. I've seen you mention it in comments, but it gets real technical. I think what I would ask you to do is take a look at the Sprott article right here. It's Sprott Money. Just type in on your browser, and by the way, I don't use DuckDuckGo anymore. They became the scumbags like the other ones. Anyways, I don't want to talk about that either. Used to like DuckDuckGo, but type this into whatever private browser that you have, private search engine that you have that doesn't spy on you and doesn't push political narratives, and type in updating COMEX gold trade at settlement done by Sprott. A lot of you folks have asked me in the comment section to explain how this is done. Most of you have been asking me how to explain how it's done in the COMEX markets and how these big commercial short positions do that. I encourage you, because it can get technical, that you read these things, but this is different than that. But again, Kudos to Sprott for figuring out that another way that they do this, another way they monkey hammer markets down. And I highly recommend that you read this. If I read it, we're going to be here for 2 hours, folks. What else is going on here? Oh, let you look at that one more time. It's not homework, because nobody likes homework, but suggested reading. Updating COMEX Gold Trade at Settlement by Sprott explains another way that these crooks have been doing what they have been doing and why prices are where they are right now in precious metals. But no worries. The positive side of them manipulating prices down, keep buying that physical, folks. We'll stick it up their asses at some point when they've got nothing to trade but useless paper. Let's see here. Oh, here. Good article in ZH, all right? And it talks about what we've been talking about. Pozar's margin call doom low prediction comes true as Trifigura, I don't know if I pronounced that right, faces billions in margin calls, all right? And this is kind of interesting because it talks about liquidity crisis, and that's exactly what has happened with that nickel market recently and what we may see going on in the silver and gold markets as well, along with other markets I'm not even familiar with in commodities. If it's not for the banks scrambling for liquidity, then who? Recall when Zoltan Pozar warned 2 weeks ago when he said we could be looking at the early stages of a classic liquidity crisis, according to the former New York Fed liquidity guru. Again, I'm sorry, he wasn't a New York Fed guy, a liquidity guru. None other than commodity traders themselves and their associated exchanges and clearinghouses will be the drain of the liquidity during this period of unprecedented commodity volatility. Adding that if you want to express all this in the credit space, look at what CDS spreads on some bigger commodity traders have done in the past few weeks. And again, folks, it gets a little technical here, but while I'm on that technical issue, for example, if there's terms you're not familiar with, like CDS spreads or LME margins and that kind of thing, or margin calls, just go to bookmark Investopedia, because my whole point here is to teach you how to be smart, not teach you how to be smarter, but teach you what I learned and teach you all the tricks and things that I learned and where to get resources and where to look for things, okay? And what did I say I was just going to look up before I got sidetracked? And let's see here. Oh, I was going to look up CDS spreads. Now let's see if I'm correct. And again, I'm getting ahead of myself here on the page. Again, I love Investopedia. CDS spreads. Let's see if they have anything on that. How to invest. Okay, well, they talk about CDs. They don't talk about CD spreads, okay? But the spreads on certificates of deposits, obviously. And let's just go back here. But just to bring up my point, here, margin call, CD spreads. I didn't see that in there, but margin call. Again, just want to give you guys a resource to use to look up things, because when you're reading articles, you need to know exactly what you're reading here. Margin call definition. And if you're not familiar with the margin call, and I know all of you are, just use it as an example, Investopedia is really great explaining this stuff in kind of layman terms. All right, I digressed. Second drink of the day. Sure enough, all right, last week's unprecedented LME margin squeeze, where a 250% surge overnight in nickel prices nearly bankrupted Chinese tycoon Zhang Guanda, who's, oh God, Xingshan, you know me with pronunciations anyway, Holding Group, the largest stainless steel maker, held a massive 150,000 ton nickel short, which resulted in an $8 billion margin call, which, however, even the collecting counterparties, one which was JP Morgan, did not want to collect on, knowing that would default them, collecting nothing and potentially push the LME into insolvency. Read that right there again, folks. Pause my video here, read this section again, because I don't want to lengthen this video. I can't tell you how important that statement right here is. Another more tangible example comes from one of the world's top oil metal traders, which today we learn has seeking funding from beyond a traditional group of private banks, approaching even equity investors, hoping to obtain $2 to $3 billion in fresh liquidity to meet what Bloomberg describes as margin calls in the billions of dollars. As oil prices surged to $139 a barrel, nickel soared to 250%, precisely as Credit Suisse predicted. There's a lot of people out there with some huge margin calls out there, folks, and you know, perhaps silver and gold is seeing that as well, and that maybe that's why these markets are being manipulated down to prevent the collapse of the LME, to prevent the collapse of the LBMA, to prevent the collapse of COMEX. You know, so much going on, so much unexplainable stuff, so much stuff that doesn't make sense. Maybe it is all starting to make sense now. Here, let me move along here. Again, highly recommend you read that article as well. It's right here. It's on ZH, called Pozar's Margin Call Doom Low Prediction Comes True as Trifigura Faces Billions in Margin Calls by Tyler Durden. Good stuff right there. Again, highly recommend you read that. We talked about this a little bit earlier. It's already in GAT.org, but it basically says Russia's central banks that it will suspend purchase of gold from banks due to overwhelming demand from its households. The purchasing pause will take place on Tuesday, and there's no end to it. Currently, household demand for buying physical gold has increased, driven in particular by the abolition of value-added tax on operations. And again, the government is encouraging their citizens to buy gold because maybe they actually care about their people. I don't know. It sure seems that way. I'm surprised that our government's not telling us to buy gold in the face of a declining value of a dollar and the collapse of a fiat currency in an empire. They're not really looking out for us, though. They're looking out for their buddies and their cronies, folks. And as far as credibility goes, that's pretty much it. When it comes to government and our markets right now, I basically, when I talked to the guy at the CME group this morning, I told him, I said, your credibility is almost zip, zero, zip. It's going to be even zip, zero, kind of like what the LME is going to be going through shortly. No one's going to trust you anymore. And I think we're at that level right now, or getting to that level. By the way, I'm going to keep encouraging you guys to call the CME group. There's their number for market regulation. Super nice person that picks up the phone. So remember, whenever you make calls, be civil, be polite, and try to be concise and not just like blabbering at the mouth. Conspiracy, oh man, they're try to be specific on what you're talking about. If you're familiar with how these markets are manipulated, make a case to the person. And if you want to file a report, fine. That's why they have this number here. They have this number so people like you and I can call them. But again, you can't call them up and be rude, disrespectful, or mean. Doesn't get anywhere in number one. But you can call them up and question the living shit out of them. Question them. Ask them why. Ask them how. Also say you'd like to file a complaint. Don't do anything illegal and don't do anything, don't lie. And try to be concise and to the point. But I am encouraging everyone to call the CME group market regulation at this number. And if you can get up through the chain of command and talk to more and more people, do it. You know, clog their phones up, man. They deserve it. What they're doing is just pure criminal in my opinion. And again, in the opinions of people way smarter than myself. And as I said, be polite and civil and try to be concise in exactly what you're talking about. Well, folks, that's it. This is Brian closing it out for the day. As I always say, think for yourself, question authority, and question yourself. Because sometimes, you know, where did you get that narrative in your brain? Where did you get that information? Was it from the news? Was it from television? Was it from your parents? Was it from your school? And did you just kind of take it wholesale and flew with it your whole life? So question your own narratives, you know, because sometimes you'll find out they're not always correct. You may also find out your life will be much better for it. Hey, that's it. This is Brian Kuzmar with, oh man, I was almost going to close you guys out. And I'm going to have to because I'm busy right now. Gosh darn. I got to admit, folks, as I said, I read all the comments here. And you know what? I'm going to go through them anyway. I can't help myself. All right, so I'd like to thank everyone that comments here. And I always like to, this is just an acknowledgement when I do this. As much as I would like to sit here and talk to Tahir, Wildcat, MG, each one of you, it's getting more and more difficult because of the size of the channel. So why wouldn't JM, who bought Provident, just file a class action suit? I'd ask the same thing as the industry as a whole. Why doesn't Sprott, who's an industry leader in silver, and well, maybe because they're Canadian, but why don't as a whole some big group open? I always thought Wall Street Silver Group would be a great place to start a movement that would do that. But again, I'd never really developed. Mark Hall, what's up? I agree with you on Tulsi and all the rest of you here. And let me see here, as I said. Let me see if I can get any questions here. And as I do apologize not being able to acknowledge every one of you here. I can agree with Tulsi on some issues you mentioned, her stance in voting on the Second Amendment. Yeah, I would agree her stance on the Second Amendment as well. But when it comes to war and that kind of thing, I got to be honest with you, I haven't followed her stance on the Second Amendment. I know her stances on economics, I would never vote or support her. And again, remember, when I talk about Tulsi, I say I respect her for her service as a soldier. I respect her for her ability to understand that we don't need more wars. I respect her respect of the Constitution against illegal spying and illegally droning people to death. I respect all that stuff, but I wouldn't vote for her just because of her economic position. But then again, that's a lot more than I can say for any other Democrats out there, pretty much, almost. Glad you found these channels as well. Billy Hurst, I hope to meet you sometime. Problem right now is we are getting short on silver. Call before you come in, my local folks. And remember, I advertise to beat APMEX, JM, and SD Bullion. But I am having some issues with getting product in, so call to see what the best deal is before you come in. Thank you, Big J, a Tiger. And yeah, call them, man. Call the CME group. But again, be respectful. Helen Kessler. Yep, I checked out that channel, by the way, just to see what you're talking about. And Walmart selling silver. Ooh, that ought to be interesting to see how that goes. I bet you there's some way to make money on that. Mark had asked me a couple times about, I don't know anything about that, and if your girlfriend made 12K, I'd say she's either really brilliant or got lucky or maybe a little bit of both. Either way, listen, if she can do that, fine, Mark. But I don't know enough about that market, and I hope you do well with your $200. I really do. I hope you make $12,000 and you turn half of it into silver or gold. Keeping it salty, yes, sir. And what else we got going on here? John Gordon, relax, dude, relax. Their day will come, sir. The manipulator's day will come. It's just not as soon as we would like. But when it does, it looks like it's going to go big. Look at the LME market with nickel. Woo, went big. Who would have thought that would have happened in the nickel market? Gosh, and you think the nickel market's big. Wait do you see what happens in gold and silver markets if that shit explodes? And the oil markets. Isis Barbarina, nice to see you comment. Tree Climbing, SBS man. Connor, you as well. Jason, Big J, let me see here. Yeah, bring back stocks and public humiliation. That would be good for financial people. I think stocks would be good for financial people for sure. Jay and Bullion, I don't know about that. You know, I can't say that. I wouldn't say that at all. I think they're an upstanding company. I think that they're profitable and an honest company. So I don't know about them being corrupt. I do know that the spot prices are all screwed up for all these companies. But yep, and no. All right, man, I got to roll. This is Brian Kuzmar with Commercial Rare Coins and Precious Metals in beautiful Lauderdale by the Sea. Call me anytime between 10 and 4 Mondays through Fridays. Happy to help you out with whatever you need. As you know, I advertise to beat the big online guys, but I don't have ability to ship out outside my area. We only do face-to-face business. So if you want to do business with me and you live outside the area, I'm sorry, folks, unless you come visit me, you can't. But I do recommend, instead of buying online and shipping that money out of your state, out of your community, is try to find a local dealer. I don't care if it's tires, coins, bullion, whatever. Keep that money in town, man. I can't tell you how important that is in an era where money is being siphoned out of your communities faster than shit. Well, that's it. Have a nice day, and I will talk to you tomorrow. Bye now.